Hi everybody, Cohh here with a final thoughts video of Dragon Age the Veilguard. I made an early thoughts video, and I went over most of the stuff in there. And let me go ahead and talk about that again real quick. Dragon Age the Veilguard. Let's do the good things. Incredibly good voice acting. The voice actors did an incredible job with what they did. Beautiful graphics and very well designed locations and set pieces. There were times when I was just straight floored and wowed by what I saw in this game. The amount of times that I got to like a vista and wanted to pan around was palpable. And honestly, it was so good that it actually gets me pretty excited for the next Mass Effect to be able to look at alien worlds and alien locations in those amazing things. Awesome. Music was really solid. Presentation was really solid. Ran pretty well too. Although we did have a few tech issues, it was okay. So Dragon Age Veilguard, technically, not a bad product. In fact, arguably significantly above average when it comes to like the quality of the visuals and things like that. So good stuff there. Now, the other parts of Dragon Age, we'll kind of start with the mechanics. Dragon Age the Veilguard is an action RPG. It is not an RPG. It is very clearly an action RPG. All of the systems are streamlined. The gear upgrade system and faction system feels a little mobile gamey. It's clearly designed in like from a more kind of free to play base. You know, getting duplicates upgrades them, things like that. The combat system is extremely action oriented, which honestly I liked, and it also lets you freely respec whenever you want, and I bounced around specs, which kept it kind of engaging. But there's no question that it is kind of a one-trick pony. It is a basic combat system, and if I was not able to respec whenever I wanted and bounce around and do stuff like that, it would probably get have gotten a lot more stale than it did, a lot quicker than it did. I definitely got to a point where I found this kind of like death beam build, and I was like, you know what? Like, let's just be done with combat till the end of this game. And it was fine. And it was fine. So, you know, something to consider there. Also, to put it bluntly, a lot of missing QOL and a lot of very weird decisions and kind of like missing default features. It makes me think that a lot of the people that designed the stuff for this game may not play them regularly. Like a really good example, for instance, is they offer a free respec system with this relatively large passive tree, but they give you absolutely no way to search it. And what that means is every time you do a full respec, you basically have to play like a memory game trying to remember where things are for the build you're going for. Again, anyone who's played a game like this with a tree like that would know you need some kind of system to do that. And it was just missing. And there's a lot of stuff like that in this game where it's just like functionality that should be kind of like up front in there is not. Like when you're looking at different enchantments for your gear, it doesn't show you the enchantments that are on your equipped gear, but it shows you the enchantments on gear that is on the enchantments on gear that you're not using. So you're never really sure if the enchantments you want are on the gear you're using. Like, again, so many weird little things that just didn't feel good, which was a little bit strange there. And so overall, it worked. It worked, and it did carry me to the end of the game. But as far as a Dragon Age game, it is by far the furthest departure we've seen from kind of the classic systems, and very much a step towards that more kind of free-to-play mobile thing, which honestly may not have been the best thing. Also, again, free respec system is begging for templates and saved profiles, so you can like make a build and then switch to another one and stuff. None of that is in the game, so weird stuff. Now, that brings me to the last part of this thoughts video, and I want to keep it somewhat short, but I play a lot of games. I play a lot of RPGs. A lot of them. They're honestly my favorite thing. I especially like CRPGs, which are really known for their kind of like large narratives, immersive characters, that kind of thing. As a fan of RPGs, and as somebody who has played hundreds of them, as kind of a nerd for those games, Dragon Age the Veilguard is one of the thinnest games I've ever played of this type when I feel like it comes to taking advantage of the setting, the world, and the lore. And what do I mean by that? I mean that a lot of games like this, I feel really respect the world, the lore, and the setting. And what they do is they craft their stories and characters as immersive elements that are perfectly synced with that setting. What they do makes sense in the world. What they do is explored in the world. A good example is like Karlach's infernal engine in her chest, and all the cool things that came about that. And I feel like the best writing, the most immersive writing, is the writing that like 50/50s that, right? You have interesting human condition storytelling of people being attracted to each other, dramatic situations, and all of the issues that come between humans interacting with each other. That's like half. And the other half of the story is all that nerd lore, the world, the weird magic that it uses, the weird items and artifacts and strange things that happen, the political systems of the world, the factions, right? And I feel like the good stories are like 50/50 or 60/40 that stuff, where you're constantly being reminded you're set in the world. You're constantly being reminded like this is happening in this world. And Dragon Age, instead of being that 50/50 or 60/40, is more like 80/20, and in some cases like 90/10. And what do I mean by that? I mean that it seems like the writers were far more concerned about delivering information to the player, about making stories that made the player feel good about their decisions, about making stories that could have been in any video game, but were just like basic interaction stories between two characters overcoming hard times. And especially towards the end of the game, and as I started finishing companion quests, I realized that I kept wanting more about the world of Dragon Age, and it just wasn't there. Like I kept realizing that like all the cool stuff, all that nerd lore was just very minor story elements that were conveying that big Life is Strange style, like human emotion story. And the thing I kept coming back to is it felt like I was playing a young adult novel. It felt like I was playing a game angled towards teenagers, not adults that want to explore immersive settings with real people getting in real fights and having real problems. There was none of that in Dragon Age. It was all very lofty. We're in this together. Oh, we can overcome anything if we believe in ourselves. Like every time I started to get like slightly immersed in the story, every time I started to start believing the lie, which to be fair was like the main story arc, that was the Dragon Age quest. There was little room for that human condition stuff. And it actually stuck to Dragon Age lore, and it was cool about Solus, and that's kind of what kept me going all the way to the end. But I felt like and I don't want to spoil in this video, but multiple companion quests, if you watch my playthrough, I got to the point where I was like, tell me more about the Dragon Age stuff. Or the quest would end early and I would be like, what happened to the sick thing? What happened to the, like, where's the rest? Where's my nerd lore? And that kept happening over and over, where it's just like, everything was just superficial human interaction. Again, Life is Strange stuff. And not nearly enough of like that interesting, deep, immersive, like the stuff I play these games for, which is, again, that fantasy writing, that real immersive, challenging stuff. So that was the biggest, like this game was such a big departure from what I like from RPGs. I finished this game feeling like I played Life is Strange. And I purposefully don't play games like that, because I don't like games like that. and so I like, so that was the big thing for me. Like I came in this game wanting an immersive nerd lore Dragon Age. And what I got was this kind of homogenized, young adult oriented, we're all great, the world is awesome, and everything's going to be fine. And I don't feel like this game was written for me at all. I don't feel like I was the target audience. I don't feel like people that loved Dragon Age Origin were the target audience of this. Now, granted, there's a lot of goofy stuff in Dragon Age Origin, but we played it just a couple years ago, just a few years ago, and that 60-40, 80-20 thing. I mean, go watch my playthrough, man. It's a different feel. It's an entirely different feel. Even the companion quest, totally different feel. So that's kind of where I end with this game. I'm very, from the perspective of what I like from these games, I'm very disappointed in what I was offered by this team. I felt like they could have delivered a product that was far more genuine and immersive for the people that love the franchise and far less for the general masses, which I feel like this game was for. This game was not a game for Dragon Age fans. This was a game to get people who don't play Dragon Age to play it because it's so, again, made for the masses. And it's really unfortunate, man. It's really unfortunate. And I hope that when the people that make the decisions look at this, they don't just point the finger at the social issues this game had and go, that's why the game failed. Because frankly, this game had far deeper issues than that. Far deeper. Like, this is a direction, like, this is a, like, let's have a meeting at the company and talk about the products we make, and if they are something our audience wants, kind of talks. Like, real serious talks that this company needs to have. And they also need to decide, like, who are we making this game for? Because I didn't feel like it was for me as a long-term Dragon Age fan. So I'm that's just the honest truth here. I wish I had kind of a more, I normally like to end these videos with like a bit more of a positive. And I will say, like, the game had some good stuff. And the last thing I will end this with is, I will say that I understand why there is a group that likes this game. Because just like there's people that like Life is Strange, there's people that like Dragon Age, and there's people that like those more human condition style stories. This game was made for them. But I don't think that BioWare realized that that audience is honestly probably more niche than Dragon Age fans. And inevitably, by generalizing their game, they reduced the amount of people that wanted to play it more than they ever would have if they had stayed true to the source material. And more importantly, stayed true to delivering that real nerd lore story that I think a lot of us wanted. A lot of us really wanted. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. That's kind of where we are. I don't really have anything else to say. So I'm going to end the thoughts video right here. But that's how I feel about Dragon Age Veilguard. I hope that this is not a trend. And I will say that I'm so thrilled that there's companies like Larian, Owlcat, InXile, and people who are still very much carrying the torch of having immersive, deep, believable, awesome writing. And honestly, I hope that we do see more from BioWare that is quality. I am still looking forward to Mass Effect 5, believe it or not. And yeah. When it gets here, we'll all check it out together, and hopefully we'll see some more different oriented experiences. Okay. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys liked this thoughts video. Feel free to disagree. This is all hugely opinionated stuff I just said. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys later. Bye-bye.